Welcome to Professional Insights, brought to you by the National Referral Network. This is where we talk with professionals and they share their wisdom, expertise, and insights for the benefit of everyone. And today I'm with Eric O'Connor. Eric is the Vice President of River Communities Fiduciaries. They are a fiduciary. They are a nonprofit corporate fiduciary in Pennsylvania. Where exactly in Pennsylvania are you?
So we're in a town called Ambridge, PA, which is about 20 minutes west of Pittsburgh.
Okay. And you have, we were talking a couple of minutes ago. You've got some very, very unique specialties that make your firm very unique, and also there's a lot of things we are going to talk about today that attorneys and regular everyday people don't really know about and should know about. But let me begin at the beginning. So, a professional fiduciary really is an alternative to, say, a family member who might serve as trustee. Anybody who sets up a trust and a will and an estate plan and all that stuff is going to appoint somebody or nominate somebody to succeed them and handle their affairs when they're, when they passed on, and that needs to happen. But your firm is an alternative to that. Walk us through when I'm fumbling this a little bit. Walk us through when you fit, and some of the situations you encounter.
Well, okay. So as a corporate fiduciary, we serve in many different capacities. We serve as a trustee, as a guardian, agent under power of attorney, administrators of estates. And so a lot of times, the attorneys will, when they're doing their planning with their clients, will see a situation where it might be better to have a company or a corporate fiduciary in place as opposed to a person. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And the benefits of that is you have, like our company, we have 8 different people on our staff that have different levels of knowledge and expertise. And so now that all comes into play when we're doing the work for the individuals here,
Mm-hmm.
whereas an individual doing the work needs to be a jack of all trades in all these different areas. And if they know it, that's fine, but a lot of times, a lot of these different areas here are complex and hard to navigate. And a lot of times it's better to have a corporate fiduciary in place, particularly when you're dealing with complex and complicated estate plans or trusts or whatever it might be.
So, in other words, if a family says, "Look, we don't want our beneficiaries to fight over all this, and we want somebody to enforce what we have, the language we have in our trust," they would engage a third party to do that, kind of as a referee almost, but as an entity that's going to really follow the terms of the trust to the letter. And this, would you say that this is a measure that protects beneficiaries and protects the estate plan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the other thing that comes along with that is being a corporate. We have insurance policies. So
Mm.
if we do something wrong and we screw something up, then we can get sued, and those insurance policies will help cover any damage that we may have done. An individual, typically they don't have that. Sometimes they make it a bond, but a lot of times that stuff's overlooked when you're looking at planning. But having a corporate fiduciary in place means that there's some type of level of protection
Mhm.
for the beneficiaries.
So it's like its own insurance policy. It's going to get done, and nobody can dispute it. Nobody can fight over it, and you know, turn it
Correct.
into a show on Bravo.
Well, you know what,
Something
they can still fight it. I
they
mean,
can.
and we see that happen a lot where, I mean, they'll just fight things to fight things, where they think that they're, if somebody feels that their rights are being violated or they're whatever,
Mhm.
I mean, they can hire an attorney and fight it, but a lot of times it's, a waste of money to do that.
Okay. Now we're also talking about how there are. You mentioned people with disabilities, special needs, and it appears to be a niche of your firm is that disabilities special needs area, and
Mhm.
that is an area that evidently many attorneys, they're somewhat familiar with it, but some of the I don't know, more micro aspects of it they might not be aware of. Let's talk for a minute about what should attorneys who are working in this area be aware of.
Well, I think the first thing you need to be aware of when you're dealing with your client is, are they receiving government benefits or could they be receiving government benefits? And So a lot of times, attorneys will work with individuals who might be receiving a settlement, and if that settlement goes directly to that individual, then they may lose those government benefits. They will
Okay.
lose those government benefits. So
And,
that's
and
something
why
that,
and why would they lose the benefits?
well, because the government benefits, whether it's a SSI or Medicaid, have income and asset thresholds. And so a lot of times when those settlements come through, those asset thresholds are being exceeded at that point. And so now the individual is has excess resources that now kicks them off of the benefits.
So in other words, the government says, "Hey, wait a minute, you came into some money here. We're gonna take away your benefits."
Exactly right.
Okay.
Yep.
So how do they protect themselves against that?
So that's where part of the reason why we organized as a nonprofit was so that we could offer what's called a pooled supplemental needs trust.
Okay,
And
let's stop there for a second. Can you describe what that is?
yeah, so what a pooled supplemental needs trust is it's created by federal code. Okay, so it can be used in all 50 states. But what it is, it's a non-countable resource for government benefits purposes. So people can put excess resources into it and convert those countable resources now into non-countable resources and maintain their eligibility for government benefits or gain eligibility for government benefits.
So it's like they take possession of the assets but don't. Is that fair?
Yeah. So think of it like, here, you have the individual, then you have the money, and we're between them and the money. Okay, so on paper, there's no ownership in interest in those funds for that individual, but the funds inside the trust are there for the sole benefit of that individual.
So it's like you're giving the money to a friend or giving the asset to a friend who has a legal responsibility to do what's in your best interest.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And therefore you never took possession of, but your friend's going to take care of you.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Okay. And how often, this sounds like this isn't widely known that this is a way of getting this done. Why isn't it widely known?
Well, I think there's I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. I really don't know. I mean, I would say that there's probably not a lot of education out there about these types of trusts. There's only, if you look in the federal code, there's only three types of trusts that the federal language creates for to help in this area.
Mhm.
So it's just probably something that's overlooked a lot.
And this is not just something that's happening in Pennsylvania. This is something that's happening across the country because you are licensed to serve in multiple states now, as I understand it. What do you see that it's different in other states, or is it essentially the same?
Yeah, so because the pool trust, because it's created by federal language, that means that it can be used in all 50 states and
Mm.
any territories or whatever that's governed by the U.S. Okay, but the states can impose some. They can't. They can impose other requirements around the establishment of the trusts. Okay, so they can't prohibit people from using the trust, but they can say, well, we want this or we want that. So that would be done through the Medicaid departments. What requirements each state would want.
Now, let me ask a question. Right, again, this just sort of as we're talking, I'm just getting curious about certain things. So I live out here in Southern California, and you do occasionally see people who are land rich and cash poor. Okay, very common down here. They bought their homes
Hmm.
way back in the day, and they just never moved. Okay, their
Okay.
incomes are modest, and in many cases they may be receiving state benefits, most notably in California, Medi-Cal, state
Hmm.
mandated healthcare or state subsidized healthcare. In a situation like that, is the pooled trust an option?
Well, yeah, it is. It's always an option because you never know when you're going to become over resourced. So the thresholds are so low. I know here in Pennsylvania, the limit for Medicaid is $2,000.
Two thousand
So
dollars of income?
no, $2,000 of assets. So
Of
if you're
assets?
of assets, yeah. So if you're,
So
you're
wait a minute, a clunker car with 200,000
well,
miles on it disqualifies
no,
you?
no, no. You're allowed to own a house and you're allowed to own a car, and those are
Okay,
non-countable resources. Okay, so that's why you see a lot of people, they put a lot of money into their house so that they could
okay.
qualify. That's a strategy to use to get qualified for Medicaid.
Okay, so it out here, Medicaid, upon a person's death, is going to lien the asset. Is that also true with the pool trust?
Well, yeah. So one of the things in the federal code was that upon the death of the individual, that the state would need to be repaid. Well, hang on, let me back up here. So the federal language reads that upon the death of the beneficiary, the states must be reimbursed for the amount of medical assistance provided before any residual
Okay.
beneficiaries receive anything. So the states have a front seat there in any residual amounts.
Okay, so the states aren't gonna lose out necessarily because somebody's utilizing this concept, but at least, the state won't look at the individual as having too much money and, remove the benefits from them.
Correct. There's no limit on what can be in the pool trust.
Okay, wow. All right, and so, and again, as you said, this is a federal mandate, and it just sounds like this is something that's flown under the radar for far too long. Do you see that this concept is gaining additional traction?
Well, it is. The government is kind of doing some things to counter us, the pool trusts, and that's the creation of the ABLE accounts. Those are a similar product to be used for individuals with disabilities.
Mhm.
To help them maintain eligibility for government benefits. The problem is that with those accounts, what we found with them is that after $100,000, if you accumulate $100,000 in there, you lose your SSI benefits. Okay,
Okay,
so there's a negative there. But the thing that we found was the biggest problem with them is that the disbursements aren't checked but once a year.
okay,
Okay, and so if the beneficiaries have their own ability to go in those accounts and request their own distributions. And so if they're using it for housing or shelter and food and things like that, then those are called non-qualified distributions from the trust or from the ABLE account.
all right,
And so if they're going the whole year and they're doing this, and once it gets reviewed and reconciled, they may get penalized and they may lose their benefits and have to pay some stuff back.
okay. So in other words, when you encounter somebody who might be, let's to use a generic term like asset rich but cash poor,
Mhm.
then this really becomes a very formidable option
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
because because there are those that are in danger of losing benefits that they become accustomed to if they don't step correctly.
That's correct, yeah. I
Okay.
mean, and that's a very nerve-wracking situation for those individuals. You're getting a letter that you're gonna lose your income. You're getting a letter that you're
Wow.
gonna lose your health insurance. I
So
mean, and
somebody who's maybe in their 70s might get a letter like this because they just inherited some,
yep,
and all of a sudden they're like, ah,
that
I'm on state assistance for my medical care. What I'm going to lose it? What?
yep. So inheritances are a great example, I mean,
Okay.
so that's what happens a lot, and Ida, in Idaho leaves a $100,000 life insurance policy for Jimmy.
Wow.
Jimmy inherits it, but he's, disabled and he's on SSI and government and Medicaid.
Okay.
Now that $100,000 is going to kick him off those programs, and
Okay.
we know how expensive it is to live, so that money's not going to last very long.
Even in Idaho. Yes, we know.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, Eric, this has been very informative, and I've learned a lot. Just I didn't know that um, states operated this way and would actually remove benefits. Anyway, this is great stuff. Uh, in closing, is there anything else you feel like attorneys and or individuals need to know?
Yeah, I think the another big thing is by having us in place is we're looking at every distribution from the trust. That's our responsibility. Is we cannot disperse funds from the trust that are going to cause somebody to lose eligibility for their benefits. Okay,
Okay.
so because of that, we're looking at every distribution and we're helping these people spend the money properly so we don't get into the situation that I talked about with like the ABLE accounts.
Right.
So when it's being reviewed, all the distributions are legitimate. They've been vetted, they've been reviewed, and if something happens, then that's on us, and that's where we go back to the insurance policies we talked about.
Okay.
Or if we're causing losses for people and hurting them in other ways.
Okay. All right. Well, that's great. Well, Eric, I appreciate you giving us a few minutes here. Again, this is a lot of information. I think this is information a lot of attorneys need to know. And so, again, it's great stuff. We will be back next week, same time, same station. Check out the National Referral Network. If you are a professional looking at this, we are a community of professionals all banding together for the sake of helping our clients and just doing a better job. So, Eric, once again, thank you, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you.